You know those moments when your mind just won't stop spinning after a breakup or when you're thinking about your ex? Those thoughts that just show up every single day over and over and over again. They replay every conversation that you've had or overanalyze every text that you get. It's every what if or if only. And you wonder if you said the wrong thing or if you were too much or not enough. And it causes you to have tremendous self-doubt and ultimately lowers your self-esteem over time. Somehow, these thoughts feel like the absolute truth. They feel so real. It's like your mind isn't capable of showing you any other way of seeing things. It keeps you stuck in your feelings, it keeps you stuck in these looping thoughts, and it really prevents you from moving forward. So if this is you, stay tuned because you might be missing something really important. What if not everything your mind tells you is actually true? In this episode of Breakup to Love Alchemy series, we're gonna go over step number 3 out of my 5-step system to stop overthinking your breakup and your past. And in this one, we're going to talk about how to stop self-sabotaging after a breakup. And the way we do this is by loosening our mental grip on those thoughts that we're having. They're just like knots that we need to try to loosen up because they're keeping you feeling really stuck and consumed by your emotions. So by the end of this video, you'll learn how to recognize which thoughts are really running your life and your emotions and causing you to self-sabotage. You'll learn how to challenge those thoughts with compassion versus fear or insecurity. And you'll begin to be able to create space so that you can let those thoughts go that aren't helping you expand and truly move forward. So welcome to the channel. My name is Emmi Fortin. I'm a breakup and relationship coach and your love alchemista, here to guide you through the alchemy process, which is transformation that helps you not just get over someone, but to truly reconnect with who you are at your core, the most important pieces of yourself, so that you can move forward with peace, positivity, and most important, clarity, so that you can feel like you again, even if right now you're not sure who that is. So let's get right into it. With step number 3 out of my 5-step system, we're going to be tackling our repeating thoughts in two major parts. We're going to do a reframe. I'm going to do part 1 of that in this video, and then part 2 I'm going to do in another video. So what's important to realize is that we have 2 major kinds of thoughts. We have thoughts about how we see ourselves, which we can consider self-talk, and we have thoughts about how we can perceive other people and situations, or in other words, things that are outside of ourselves. So I want to give you an example of both of these and why they're really, really important to be aware of, because they shape our entire reality of what we believe is true. So first, let me give you an example of how the first kinds of thoughts, the self-talk ones, impact your relationships and your ability to heal from past ones. So here's what I mean. Little mini story. When I was growing up, my mom always used to remind my sister and I about the importance of having high self-esteem. And so that involved self-talk that was very supportive and positive in general. You know, she'd ask us to name things that we liked about ourselves, and, you know, maybe it was our personalities, our talents, or, you know, even our quirks. And she'd say things like, you know, recognizing your strengths isn't arrogance. You know, it's necessary. It's actually how we thrive in life. And so for a long time, you know, when I was a kid, even into my teenage years, I believed this and I practiced it, and that resulted in me having a very strong self-view until I started dating. Okay, everything really started to change, and it was gradual, you know, but ultimately it resulted in a completely different perspective, who I was, what my self-worth was, and what was happening in my relationships. So I want to just kind of show you what that looked like. So over time, my inner dialogue about myself went from things like, why wouldn't he call me back? I'm amazing. Like, it just didn't make sense to me. It was like the weirdest thing. It's like, that's so weird, right? But then slowly it became, what's wrong with me that he didn't call me back, right? Do you see how that shifted my perception of myself and my own self-worth? And then over time, it became to, kind of self-degradation, like I mustn't be pretty enough, or I'm not thin enough, or why would anyone choose me? I mean, that's like we're getting to like the bottom of the barrel. And so little by little, these corrosive thoughts really started to change how I was showing up, not only in dating and relationships, but also just in my everyday life and how I felt about myself. So my choices started changing, which means my behavior started changing, which means that what was happening in my life started changing, including the people that I was attracting. So what this looks like is I stopped honoring my boundaries that I had in the past. I started accepting breadcrumbs from the men I was dating or even in relationships with. And I tried to fill my own internal empty space with other people. This was my strategy to help myself try to feel better. But clearly it wasn't working because my inner world was really suffering at that point. And so my outer world really started reflecting what was going on inside. So when our thoughts are not self-supporting and self-nurturing, they actually become the architecture or the framework, the foundation of our pain. So what about the second kinds of thoughts? Those are the ones that we have that are kind of about ourselves. But what about the second kind, when our thoughts are about other people or about the situation? Let me give you some examples of that. When these repeat over and over, especially over time, they shape our belief system and what we believe to be true about what is possible for us. So your beliefs shape your reality, right? So think about it. If your mind keeps on repeating the phrase, for example, I'll never be happy again. Let's say you 30 years of marriage, you've just got out of a divorce, you can't even conceive of any other kind of life that could make you happy. I mean, you built a life with this person, right? So maybe the thought that you have is like, I will never be happy again. Well, you'll unconsciously make choices that prove that statement to be true. If your thoughts say, no one ever stays, or people always leave me, then you'll kind of brace yourself up front when you're entering a dating situation for loss before the love even has a chance to blossom. So before we can really, really heal what's going on inside of us, and absolutely before we can create relationships that are fulfilling and actually last, we have to get curious about our thoughts, and we can't judge them. We just have to notice which ones feel really heavy or tight or restrictive, fear-based or insecurity-based. And then we have to ask ourselves, is this thought that I'm having really true? Now, most of us will automatically say, well, yes, it's true, right? But if you've watched my other videos, I've encouraged you to get really curious about your thoughts and to be a little PI, like a private investigator. Really dig deeper. Do not stay with just the surface level, because I promise you there is so much more underneath that is actually going to bring you into the light. So in step 3 out of my 5-step system, which I go over in my Breakup Thought Detox bundle, it's a downloadable bundle that tells you exactly what to do in each step, along with the writing exercises that go with it. I'll link that in the description below if you want that extra resource. So in step 3, we really need to focus on awareness and loosening our mental grip to our thoughts. The reason why these thoughts are reappearing over and over and over and over is because we are attached to that thought. We're attached to that thought because of the emotions that we have connected with them and the beliefs that we hold to be true. So we have to somehow find a way to loosen our grip. It's like holding onto something so tightly. Can we just let go a little tiny bit so that there's an opportunity to let go? Okay, you can't change a pattern that you don't see. So that's why the first step is always awareness. We need to bring it into the conscious mind. So if you watch my video about step 1 on how to stop overthinking your breakup and your past, Go back and watch that video if you haven't already. I gave an example and talked about a woman named Katie. Her repetitive thought was, I am so angry at Bill for cheating. I can't believe he did this to me and our family. That thought seemed harmless at first because it's a natural emotional response. I mean, I would think that someone would probably be angry if their, spouse of many years cheated on them, right? So there's nothing weird about that. But when that thought continues to loop over and over and over and over, it actually starts building new beliefs inside of us, such as, I can't trust men, or I always choose the wrong partners, or my life is ruined, right? These become new beliefs that are not supportive, and also, more importantly, they start to become our identity. We identify with those thoughts, and we start to kind of take that on with our choices, our behaviors, our actions, and that shapes our life. So what is the truth here? The truth is that every repeated thought that you have, whether it's good or bad, good or bad, let's say positive, negative, supportive, unsupportive, is really the architect of your reality. So the more you think it, the more you live inside that house that you're building. So here is what we can do. In this step number 3, I'm going to ask you to challenge your thoughts. Now, we're not fighting them, right? We're not enemies. We're not going to dismiss them. We're not going to repress our emotions. We're actually going to acknowledge them and just get curious. Okay? Like you would with a friend. You're not going to judge your friend. You're going to be empathetic, right? You're going to inquire to learn more about that thought. Why do they feel that way? Why do they think that? Is it really true, right? Are there any other perspectives that we can offer? So imagine your mind is like a courtroom. A thought enters your mind or enters the courtroom and it takes the stand. And the thought is, I will never trust anyone again. Your job is not to silence that thought. It's to act as a defense attorney and ask, is that statement 100% true? Is there even a 1% chance? Or is there 1% of evidence that it might not be true? That's all it takes. 1% of doubt to loosen that knot, something that we're holding on to so tightly. So I'll never trust anyone again. Well, how can we kind of disprove that? Is there anyone in your life that you do trust? Well, yes, I trust my best friend, right? Okay, so then we're saying that you are capable of trust. It just depends on the person. And you're like, well, yeah, right? So you're trying to kind of like have this dialogue with yourself where you're trying to figure out, is this thought 100% true? Is there a different way we can see it? I want to give you a different example. I'm going to use the name Lori to keep my client anonymous, okay? So after her husband cheated, she would constantly tell herself, I have to do everything. It's all on me. She had, 3 kids. And so the responsibility of caring for those kids and the household and going to work, all those things, she felt an enormous amount of responsibility to do all of those things. And so, of course, every time she felt overwhelmed and had that thought, I have to do everything, meaning he does nothing, right? Every time she thought that, it brought up feelings. It was a trigger for her. She felt anger, resentment, isolated, right? She was alone in this. And so when I asked her to challenge that thought and ask her, is that thought 100% true, right? Everything is totally your responsibility or on you. And of course, the first reaction she had was, yes, I do everything. Right? But then I asked her to just kind of challenge it again. Is it 100% true? Is it 1% untrue? And she said, well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, my niece does help out with watching the kids, multiple times a week. I do have a brother who is offered to babysit, and actually the kids' soccer coach has really become a wonderful role model for them. And so was she carrying a really heavy load? Absolutely. We're not going to deny that. But was the statement that was causing her all of these emotions, right, to live in, that statement wasn't 100% true. And so that 1% of awareness around how it wasn't completely true, it cracked open an entire door to some relief, to some transformation, and also expansion. Because she saw that she wasn't actually alone just as much as her mind had been insisting. And so that's what happens when you begin to question the stories that your mind is telling you. They begin to loosen their grip on the thought. And that's what we have to do. We can't just be like, wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to let that thought go. Maybe some of you can. That's awesome if you can, but most of us can't. So we have to first loosen the grip a little bit. So we start by just noticing what phrases are replaying in your mind most often, and what tone do they carry? How do they make you feel? Are they fear-based? Are they insecurity-based? Are they fantasy-based? Are they rooted in honest truth? Are they rooted in self-love? So just kind of start to notice. And you might notice that your thoughts, oftentimes, they're not even yours. Sometimes they can come from things you've heard growing up. Sometimes they can come from our past partners, or even the society that we've grown up in, our culture. Awareness allows you to choose differently, and it allows you to form a perception that supports you in moving forward. It allows you to choose a perception that is expansive versus holds you back or keeps you stuck. So the next time a painful thought comes into your mind, don't run from it. Don't get mad at yourself because you're having this thought again. Pause, breathe, and then ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it really true? Is there anything I can find that makes it 100% not true, or not 100% true? Even a crack of doubt allows the light in, and it allows an opportunity to be able to reframe the thought into a different phrase that feels more expansive, okay? The whole point of this is to be able to change your thoughts so that they're more supportive. Notice I'm not just saying to simply think positive. That doesn't usually work, okay? We have to get to the root of the thoughts, of the beliefs, and we have to be telling ourselves things that we think are true versus just simply being positive. So right now, if you want to do a little exercise, grab your journal, write down the repetitive thoughts that you have for the next 24 hours, and notice which ones feel the heaviest. Notice which ones feel the most restrictive or keep you stuck. And then next to each one, see if you can ask yourself or write down, is this 100% true? What's the 1% that might not be? You don't need to force any new belief systems yet. We're just starting with awareness so that we can truly reframe your thoughts in the next step, which is step 4 of my 5-step system to stop overthinking your breakup and your past. So for now, we're just trying to loosen that knot of the shoelaces, untangling the mental knot so that your mind can open up to different possibilities. We first have to acknowledge that different possibilities actually exist. So you'll be surprised at how much lighter you feel when you stop assuming that every thought you're having is a fact. Remember, your thoughts are powerful storytellers. You are the author. Don't let them be in control of you. So in the next video, which is step 4, we'll go deeper into how you can then reframe your thoughts into ones that are not just positive, but feel aligned, empowering, and true to who you really are. If you want the exact 5-step system to stop overthinking your breakup and your past, and you want the writing exercises that go along with them, check out my Breakup Thought Detox bundle. I'll link it in the description below. And I would love for you to join us in the Breakup to Love Alchemy Circle. You can join like-minded people just like you who are going through very similar things, and you can connect with them. We can connect with each other, hold each other accountable, transform together, learn the strategies and skills to be able to do that. And there's no reason why you should be doing all of this alone. We are much better together. we thrive more, we feel less isolated and lonely. So I'll link that in the link below as well. So until next time, you are the alchemist of your own life. Please remember that even in the heaviest times, you have the power to transform your thoughts, your energy, your relationships, and that's the magic that you already have within you. So please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.